It was one of the wildest endings of this EuroLeague season. I believe that this last possession, starting from the block of Dalton Hamas, going to this crazy shot by Costello, will be top 3, top 5 plays of the season. Of course, we're missing something because usually every week you have something extraordinary. But this is with the block and with the shot. I mean, it was incredible.
I'm trying to think if we already had a better moment than this sequence. You know, the block and the shot together during the whole.
Okay,
season.
we had Mike James 3-and-1 play, which was also. I mean, it's a miracle to win a game, to send the game into overtime, being 4 points down in the last possession. It's huge.
But that's, you know, a block and a game-winning shot. So you're not going into overtime. You're not leaving any time to the opponent. And that block was just something else. I mean, Walter Tavares had that ball in the rim, actually, already. And Holmes had to time it simply perfectly, in my eyes. It was like one little moment later, and the ball is the 2 points is for Real Madrid, and they win the game.
Yeah, and blocking Tavares, not just because of his height, but also the strength he puts in dunking the ball. For a guy like Hamas, it's incredible. And for me, the highlight of this highlight is actually this block. I'm not taking away any credit from Costello's shot because it's also a ridiculous shot. I mean, he just said that he basically didn't see the rim. He just released the shot, and
Rudy was there, right there,
exactly,
with his hand up.
But my biggest highlight of that highlight was that Hamas blocked that shot, although like a couple of weeks ago, just before the signing deadline, Baskonia was seriously exploring the market to sign somebody because they had some concerns over his health. He has some knee issues, I think, and you know, it was that serious that they thought about bringing another player. Now he shows up. I mean, we're not sure if he can stay healthy consistently, but I mean, he shows up in like week or two, probably just 1 week, and he, you know, blocks that shot and basically puts the ground for the incredible win of Baskonia. So that's huge for Hamas because he's a really important piece of that Baskonia team. Although he's not the top scorer, not the most, let's say, efficient, most highlight reel player, but he's just doing all those small things that helps them to win games.
Huge for Holmes and huge for Baskonia because nobody was actually, you know, when predicting the final 8, nobody was expecting them to win away from home because they are pretty terrible playing not in Fernando Buesa Arena, and to win at Madrid in such fashion is a huge bump in the final race for the top 8 because we see that nobody this week, the main contenders, you know, Maccabi did not lose. Zalgiris got 2 important wins.
Efes lost both. But you know.
But I think Baskonia could have done better. I mean, after what they did in Madrid, basically expectations were to finish the double game week with 2 wins, and at home versus Monaco, they were without Mike James. I'd say they don't feel as happy as they could after this double game week. What happened in Madrid was awesome, but that crazy game with Monaco, when you had Marcus Howard so hot and Darius Thompson dishing assists all over the place, probably expected them to win, but
it just erased their huge win in Madrid, probably.
Knowing that they're a very good home team in Buesa Arena, after beating Real Madrid, you were really close to getting a small advantage in the standings.
The expectations changed after the game in Madrid.
So that again just proves that even the highest highs and the lowest lows in the EuroLeague don't matter really, because after beating Real Madrid away from home with that block and that crazy shot, you might feel like a world beater, but then 2 days later you're losing at home, and once again you're stuck in this crazy situation where 4 teams have 15 wins and basically nobody knows who's gonna qualify for the playoffs. So I actually enjoyed both of their games because Baskonia plays that really entertaining style of basketball. So that game with Monaco was also a must watch, I would say, but in the end, they just couldn't cope with Helio Kobo, and it was just poor defending, poor one-on-one defense. I mean, at times, Kobo was left against Marcus Howard, and it was just so easy for him to create his own shot. And it was about who's gonna miss first, because both teams were creating good opportunities, but Baskonia just they were the first to miss some shots and lost it.
I mean, looking at the percentages, Baskonia were 72% from 2 and had 16 frees, shooting at 49% from free, and you lose the game. Looking at the box score, this doesn't even seem, possible when you're shooting 72 and you knock down 16 3-pointers. It seems like, okay, what happened? But, 17 turnovers. Monaco had almost as much offensive rebounds as Baskonia had defensive rebounds. So almost every second possession had a second chance. And
that's a lot of credit to Moneke, to John Brown, Donta Hall. These guys were fighting for rebounds like crazy, especially Chima Moneke. He's a newcomer, and so far this has been his best game, best performance, a double-double. And these games in Buesa, they have these NBA regular season vibes, because so often you can see Baskonia scoring 100 or more. So often you see teams hitting double-digit numbers in three-point shooting, and basically this is what you expect when you have Baskonia versus Monaco. And this week we have Baskonia versus Maccabi. Again,
playing home.
You can expect. Right? I think Maccabi's playing at home.
Does it really matter? Both teams at home. Like
I'm just saying that you can expect
fireworks.
NBA regular season.
Yeah. Speaking of Fernando Buesa, it was the fifth 100-point game in Fernando Buesa this season. So out of 14 home games, Baskonia had 5 of them, ending up with somebody scoring. In most cases, Baskonia, they were scoring over 100.
We need Darius Garwalis with another, fact check. How many there were games when any team scored 100 points, and how many in how many of those games Baskonia were in that?
Yeah, that's a good task.
That could be a nice tweet. So,
by the way, after recent performances, Darius Thompson is leading the league in assists, and it's crazy to know that he has
a rookie
3 consecutive double-doubles. 3 games in a row, he has a double-double. Versus Valencia, 16 points, 11 assists. Versus Real Madrid, 18 points, 14 assists. Versus Monaco, 20 points, 12 assists. So that's 3 consecutive double-doubles. I mean, this guy is special.
When he joined Krasnodar last year, I remember that before the season, I was in Antalya Cup, and there were doubts if actually Darius Thompson can play for the team like Krasnodar, which was aiming for the Eurocup title. And now 1.5 year later,
he replaced Kalnietis in Krasnodar.
Yeah, exactly. And now 1.5 years later, look at those 2 players and what kind of directions their careers took off.
The league MVP. He replaced the league MVP, and people were doubting him.
That's crazy. Okay. That's a crazy improvement.
Brindisi's finest.
That guy made.
So he had 7 games with 10 or more assists, and 11 games with 8 or more assists. And his assist to turnover ratio is also very, very good, I would say, for a guy that has the ball in his hands all the time. He's averaging only 2.7 turnovers. So that's not bad. And knowing that it's his first season in the EuroLeague, I think his ceiling is very high. I love watching him play because he always looks so calm. Baskonia is a pretty emotional team. They go on these crazy runs. Marcus Howard is a very streaky shooter. And at the same time, Darius Thompson is always so calm.
And even before, you had Pierre Henry, who is, a really emotional guy. You don't know what you're going to get from him on each day. And Darius Thompson is just calm, cool, collected. And, you mentioned the assist-to-turnover ratio, but his shooting splits, 54 and 41. Excellent.
Yeah.
Just before we continue, Dalton Hames. I just wanted to clarify his surname, because I also thought that he was Holmes.
Okay.
But he's Dalton Hames.
Hames, yeah.
Okay. A lot of wild events happened last week, and we'll try to cover all of those major highlights of the previous double round week, including the first matchup of the season between Mirotic and Vezenkov. We will do something like a top 8 tracker, because we're just 1 month away from concluding the regular season, and there are still a lot of uncertain things to discuss about the final playoff picture. We'll do some new segments of the podcast. We will discuss Saras and his party in Athens that become public because of some videos that were leaked on Twitter, and a lot of things we will discuss. So we already discussed the great ending and Baskonia week. But what did you take from the first Mirotic and Vezenkov matchup? Watching them play for the first time since Sergio Scariolo called Vezenkov the -- 1 power forward in Europe right now, and it was actually the first matchup that they faced each other on the court.
I remember Barcelona social media team made a quite big deal after that statement, but in this game it seemed like it mattered much more for Sasha Vezenkov than for Mirotic, and I think maybe because Nikola Mirotic is already established as one of the greats in Europe. He played in the NBA, had a nice career there, and Sasha is still up and coming superstar, probably the MVP of the league, and he still has to prove not only to himself but also to others, and that's why he looked maybe a little bit impatient at times, I would say. And definitely Mirotic, you could say, won the individual matchup, even though I saw a lot of times Mirotic was defended even by Papa Nicolau on a lot of occasions. So an interesting matchup. I was surprised actually how many times Mirotic scored on those high seals.
Yep.
Against Olympiacos switches, where like almost all of his 2-pointers came. A switch happens, he seals his man up front, and Barcelona create a really nice situation where nobody from Olympiacos can really come and help from the weak side. And there were more than few occasions where Vezenkov or other guys who were switched on Mirotic were like, "Hey man, where is the help?" And everyone else is around the 3-point line, so yeah, we can't do anything. Like we are too far away to help you. You got to do something by yourself, and that was a great, as always, game planning and preparation from Jasikevicius. But I think Mirotic showed that he's getting slowly into that shape, and I know there's no concern in Barcelona's camp that he's going to be his true self when playoff comes.
For sure. He's proving that on the court. I mean, you could see the difference of the experience and maturity approaching this matchup. And it doesn't mean that this quote by Sergio Scariolo doesn't mean anything to Mirotic, because he also made some statements, showing that for sure he hears all the outside noise that is happening around those two guys. But yeah, I mean, watching Vezenkov, it probably was the most anxious Vezenkov edition I've saw in the last couple of years, actually. And he was just missing his usual casual shots that he's making. In those situations where Mirotic sealed his position for an easy layup, I mean, Vezenkov was probably at least in a couple of them. So Mirotic was just killing him offensively, and Vezenkov couldn't respond. But what I liked the most about Vezenkov, that he still recovered for the second half. In the first half, he was like 1 of 8 on field goal shooting, and in the second half he scored 10 points, and I think that 5 of them were in the fourth quarter, and inclling the
last
dagger 3-pointer, which basically clinched the victory for Olympiacos. So I liked that, Vezenkov one more time, although it was not the greatest game for him personally. He was outscored by Mirotic, I would say outplayed by Mirotic, but when it really mattered for Olympiacos, he made an adjustment. He calmed his game down, I would say, and he hit those important shots that Olympiacos expects him to make.
I mean, that's go Rytis.
I mean, in Europe, it's never going to be about a matchup. It's just about Olympiacos winning games, and for people, it's always going to be more about Bartzokos versus Saras than Mirotic versus Vezenkov. And also, it's not like these guys are some lockdown defenders that we could see this matchup as a potential battle on the court, both players getting under each other's skin. It's just not about that. And both of them, I mean, Mirotic and Vezenkov are team-dependent stars. It's not like we're talking about 2 point guards. Like if you have Lorenzo Brown versus Vasilije Micic, you can expect some fireworks. In this case, Barca has so many plays for Mirotic, basically where he just needs to be at the right place, in the right place at the right time, And Vezenkov, basically, he scores without dribbling.
Without dribbling, but you still need the passes from your teammates to arrive.
So that's the thing. To me, this game, I know there was some hype about this matchup, but Barcelona Olympiacos to me is not about Mirotic versus Vezenkov. Of course, it's very important to say that Olympiacos now has a head-to-head advantage over Barca after winning both games, and it's clear that Olympiacos is running away with the regular season title, if you could say. I mean, it's not that important because the first seed never won the EuroLeague.
Home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Oh, wait, the playoffs and
in the
quarterfinals.
But I mean, it's just a nice thing to have the number one seed, I think. And also, if you're talking about Vezenkov's MVP campaign, it will definitely help if his team finishes first. So, but anyways, I'd say that Olympiacos is again proving that they're the best shaped team right now in Europe because they can find a way to win games even when not necessarily everything is clicking.
For example, Vezenkov's, he wasn't on point
because
in this game.
We got used to watching their very fluid basketball with ball movement, people making shots, people being in the right positions, good spacing and everything. But sometimes you face those challenges where you face a team like Barcelona with their strategy and you might feel uncomfortable, but they still manage to win. And that's the big thing to me about Olympiacos.
To me, the big thing is that, we're saying how Vezenkov is the first 3 quarters player because of how dependent he is from the passes from the others. And, it's easier to score off the ball in the first 3 quarters than in the fourth when everyone is focused and concentrated on defense extra, 100%. And to me, that he scored those last 5 points in a bad game just shows, his maturity and his, despite the bad game he still had the mind and the right mentality to score in the end when it mattered the most. So I think I agree with Rytis, it's never about 2 players in Europe, but I just, looking at matches like this, I'm like, okay, but what would happen if we had the series, Because one series, only the quarterfinal doesn't really create those stories. Maybe, playoff series in semifinals and finals would create, rivalries between players, not only between the teams, but also between players. Because right now, only one matchup and you don't really get, the next season you have only 2 matches against those 2 teams. So really no rivalries between players.
Unless we see them, let's say, in the final, and both performing on a very high level, then of course you would have a story. But in regular season, I do agree, because so far we're still living with memories of Papa Nikola versus Wilbekin, like the greatest matchup in EuroLeague playoff history. Yeah,
it's crazy that actually Olympiacos won against the currently 3rd best EuroLeague team with an average game of Vezenkov, him being only 5 of 16 field goal shooting. Kostas Lukas, the main point guard who orchestrates this great offense of Olympiacos team, was only 1 of 6 and scored 3 points in 19 minutes. And what I loved the most, that basically this game was won by the second unit, starting from Zalgiris, just shooting those, I don't care about anything, 3-pointers in the second quarter, then Shaq Micic. And later in the fourth quarter, basically, Vezenkov scored those 5 important points, but the rest of the points were scored by the second unit players. And also thanks to Alec Peters, also Tariq Black, who in some games he's playing like 5, 7, 8 minutes. Sometimes you can question, his
because he always gets
position.
in foul trouble.
That's part of his task actually on the court as well, being physical. But this time he was super important, and I mean the second unit basically won the game for Olympiacos this time. Just once again, great example that proves that Olympiacos is not only about Vezenkov, not only about Slukas, but it's the most complete team in the EuroLeague, I would say. 5
offensive rebounds for Tariq Black. 5 fouls as well. And was it you who mentioned that Larenzakis wasn't quite in shape recently?
Could be.
I think it was a text message from you.
Could be.
We were talking about him for some reason.
We were talking about some players on expiring contracts who are on the rise, but I said, hey, but this guy was just killing the first part of the season. I don't feel comfortable putting him in my article. And now he took care of me putting him on the article again. Yeah. By the way, I didn't mention in our introduction, First of all, I didn't even say hi to our listeners. Rytis Vyšniauskas, Augustas Šuliauskas, and Donatas Urbonas. We are here for you to share our thoughts about basketball, but also what also helps us to make bigger things on the European media platform is just doing some simple steps from your side. Liking this video or podcast, and also subscribing to our channel, because not only you will get the podcast alerts or just will be updated with our newest episodes, but we'll also do a lot of other stuff, including the greatest highlights of those big games. Also, Augustas is always providing with his video breakdowns, and we have this great WhatsApp community where you can feel even more closer to our content creators and with our community, which is really active during game days and around all this stuff that is happening. We have some great offers right now. For instance, you can buy a 3-month subscription for basically the price of 1 month. So basketnews.com/plus. This is a must if you're a European hardcore basketball fan. And Baskonia was covered, Olympiacos Barcelona was covered as well, and the next topic I have on my list is making a big deal of Saras having great time in Athens. I mean, by saying making it a big deal, I mean that it was published both on BasketNews.com, it was published both on Mundo Deportivo, probably the biggest sports media outlets in Spain, at least considering the basketball coverage. Also, it was, of course, big deal in Lithuania. But the question sounds like this. Saras parting during the double round week between two big games. Is it something, is it nothing, or is it everything?
I mean,
I already know the comments.
Basically,
based on our answers.
You want the coach to have the same treatment that the player has, right? But anyways, I think that Saras, I don't know him personally, I don't talk to him or anything like that, but from what I know or I've heard that when he's traveling these double game weeks, he's meeting his friends in different cities, he will always go out or at least sit down with some friends to spend a good night. And it just doesn't always get on camera. But there are a lot of players that go to a nightclub after a game, whether they lose or win. So
or before the game when they play in Belgrade, for example.
It's more about like setting an example or what you do there. If you go to a nightclub, it doesn't necessarily mean you get hammered. But maybe you're just having a good time with your friends. So I don't honestly have a problem with Jasikevičius being at a concert or where he was. It's just it's very unfortunate that things like that get on camera. Somebody releases those videos and then people start talking about it, and your club has to react in some way. And I do agree that if you're expecting your players to be disciplined off the court, as the coach, you should set an example. But what I don't like is people having this opinion that if they win the game, then he has the right to go out with his friends and family.
Yeah.
If they lose the game, he needs to be locked behind, I don't know, 6 locks and just stay at home and analyze the game.
Think about that game.
Analyze the game.
Suffer from that loss.
Cry, suffer, and everything. That's just life. People are living their lives. What do I care how they relax? Whether if they want to party, they party. If they want to play computer games, they play computer games. It's just that when you're a pro, there are certain boundaries, and I hope that Saras, being a very experienced basketball professional, realizes those things. I mean, but of course it would be a bigger deal if let's say not a coach but a player would be caught on camera somewhere
That's
celebrating.
what I actually don't like the most about the situation.
Yeah.
Because if that was a player, he probably would have been disciplined. I'm not saying that Barca should discipline Saras. I just don't like the whole perception of players going out
Well,
and the way it's put on public, basically.
But we don't even know, what time it was. He was with his wife. So imagine a player going out with his wife after, during the day off, and you are not playing on Thursday.
Yeah,
And I mean,
I really don't care about
I mean,
it.
it's just social media that, in nowadays, this is the price of being a famous person. I mean, I saw that video and people, the majority of the people were filming the other way. But Saras was there, and some people, because they knew who Saras is, were filming him because he is partying. Oh, look. And that's, I like social media. I like that the advantage it gives us, in everyday's life. But this is the worst part of it. You are filming not the concert, but you're filming a basketball coach who is out there having a great time with his wife in a concert that maybe the singer that he likes and with his friends. If there was a player there with a wife, would you have a problem? Probably someone else would have filmed it, but me personally, like, what is the problem?
And the fact that it's in Greece, I mean, Greece means a lot to Saras and his family.
What do you
They're
expect
in
him
Athens.
to sit him in a hotel?
And that's like during the season, he has 2 chances to visit Athens, when they face Pau and when they face Oli.
And even though it was a double round week, they had 2 days off, 2 empty days between those games. So it's another part. And I mean,
and players do go out as well. I mean, it's not I don't have problem only with the Scavs, but if the player would have done the same and they do the same, but not every time it gets out on the social media, and not every time the post gets seen 100,000 times, on Twitter.
I mean, I remember when Vilnius had a team in EuroLeague. That was Lietuvos Rytas at the time. If you go out on Friday night after Rytas played a EuroLeague game, you could find a certain head coach in a certain casino. You can find certain players in certain nightclubs. What's the big deal?
People,
I don't see
most of sports fans, they don't realize that basketball world, just sports world in general, it's not the world of Forrest Gumps who are innocent and making the right decisions, being sober all the time. They're just the same human being like we do, and we also even have work to do on from Monday to Friday. We also go out, so we also do some stuff, and that's okay with that. I just don't get why sports fans wants to control the free time that those players, coaches, executives, anybody included has. I mean, why they want
really,
to make them robots?
They really care about the athlete's sleep. Too much. They care about their own sleep probably less than about your favorite team's coaches or players' sleep.
At the end of the day, of course, you're a representative of a basketball club, whether you're a coach or a player, right? So I would say there are certain limits. Getting absolutely wasted and drunk in public probably is not acceptable during a double game week.
Doing a Jamoran probably, is not acceptable,
Well, on that, I mean, it just depends about which part of Jamorant we're talking about. I mean, being in a strip club to me is also not a problem.
Yeah.
But the thing is that
I was not.
I know you're talking probably about some other stuff, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, like if someone's getting drunk, over partying till 7 a.m. or whatever during a double game week, that is a problem. It has to be dealt with by the club and everybody else.
Internally.
But if somebody is just out there having a good time, what's the issue then?
I mean, I also think that until it doesn't affect your preparation for the game or your presence during the game, it really doesn't matter how long that guy is partying, whether it's like 12 o'clock at night or even 7 in the morning. I mean, if that specific person is in his best shape during games, I mean, that's what's all about. Because you cannot say that Barca is unprepared for EuroLeague games. You cannot say that Saras is lacking of some perfect decision making during those big games. I mean, when it matters for him, he's always there and he's doing his best. And basketball players, coaches also, they just have a bit different ways of winding down. I mean, the level of adrenaline is so high that it's just different than just for some other regular people how to relax. And as soon as they're there for the game and doing their best, I mean, it's not the problem. It's not the problem of anybody else who are they doing during their time off.
You can't even say that they had a bad game in Istanbul later.
Exactly.
They had a decent game. It's just that Fenerbahce is a very good team. It's not like we're encouraging people to be Dennis Rodmans. You know, like you said, doesn't matter how long you party as long as you perform. Well, there are some unique performers that could party until 7 a.m. and have a good game on the same day, but that's very rare. Usually, you need to know when is the time and place to relax and do certain things. But other than that, it's just footage of a guy being in a concert with his wife and singing. That's it.
Yeah.
Talking about unprepared, there is this team, the reigning champions actually.
Okay. Yeah.
That were a little bit unprepared for their game against Maccabi, you know.
Yeah.
What was it, the score? 20-45 in the second quarter,
exactly,
I think?
20-45 in the 14th minute of the game.
I don't know. It's just...
playing at home.
Playing at home. You are not in a playoff position. You are playing against your direct opponent for one of the last spots, and you go out with this much energy and that level of focus. To be like, I don't know. To be honest, in my eyes here, like Efes don't really deserve to get into the playoffs. If they do, they have a favorable schedule. They have a lot of games at home, but it was just, you know, another example of how they were unprepared for what Maccabi was about to offer. Like, you know, going into the game, Maccabi are going to stunt from the strong side when you are driving. And Efes are just standing there. The two people on the strong side are just standing, and, you know, 2 turnovers in the first 5 minutes. Maccabi gets 2 steals, 5 easy points. 33 points in first quarter. Guess how many fouls they had with 45 seconds to go?
I guess 2.
Three team fouls they had. The guys are beating you off the dribble. You're not making any foul. On the other side of the court, however, John Bartolomeo gets a mismatch against Will Clyburn, I think, in the post. Foul immediately, you know, because that's how it's done, how it should be done. And to me, you know, yeah, Maccabi made some tough shots to start the game. Wade Baldwin hit some 3-pointers. They got into the rhythm, but it was just another example of how Efes are allowing teams to start easily, to feel good, and then you are just too late and trying to dig yourself out of the hole, and it's just too hard, you know. I mean, small examples like flare screen on the strong side. There is no communication. They score a 3-pointer. Darren Hilliard is coming off a pin down screen. Will Clyburn tries to cut it under against the shooter. You get a 2-pointer. A flare screen for Bartolomeo, and this is only in the first quarter. That the ones I saw. Flare screen, Vasilije Micic is late. And this is how you arrive to the game. This is your attitude towards the game. Probably one of the most important ones during the season. I don't know.
It's not the first time we're questioning their attitude, but for me, what's the most alarming is actually their physical shape approaching the most important time of the season.
I'm not saying attitude. I'm saying more attitude and preparation. Because you should know these things in the first quarter, you know. The game plan should be followed in the first quarter as much as in the other quarters. But you don't know these things. You're looking like you don't expect these things. Like you're coming into the game thinking, oh, we're going to score this and that like we always do, you know. We're going to see what defense the other team gives us. No, you should be coming and knowing already what to do. At least in the first quarter.
Especially after this heavy loss in Belgrade, where you should bounce back when you're playing in your home gym in front of those fans. But I mean, just to add, yeah, what's the most alarming for me that it's also about bodies being not healthy, and that's what makes me alarmed the most for the end of the regular season. I mean, Shane Larkin being in and out, he missed a huge part of the first part of the season. Vasilije Micic, he still has issues with his knee, and nobody knows how long it takes for him, to return to his normal shape. Now we have Rodrigo Bois, who's one of the most consistent players this year for Efes, had a huge season. Now he's out with the ankle injury. Some other players are suffering. So before a few weeks ago, I was very confident about them making the playoffs, maybe going deep in the playoffs. But now even my confidence just got back away a little bit, watching them play, watching them not improving that much, and especially watching them being hurt. And I know it's Efes. I know that one day they can show the best basketball like they did 2 months ago against Barcelona, but then they can lose to basically every team. But I start being more concerned about the playoff chances, because not just because they're of the level of the game, but also because of the situation in the standings. As you mentioned, they lost the game. Another one, they got swept by their direct head-to-head rival, and they're basically playing do-or-die game against Partizan this week. So they're in a tough situation.
There's one thing I want to address, basically from Maccabi's double game week, because they faced both Turkish clubs. Do you know what the number 51 stands for? That's the number of 3-pointers missed by Maccabi opponents in a double game week.
That's 25 per game.
11 from 62. That's the number. The 3-point shooting of Fenerbahce and Efes together versus Maccabi. And I'm not taking away anything from Maccabi, because they played with great energy versus Efes. They deserved to win that game. Versus Fenerbahce, they had to scramble, basically. Somehow they got away with it. But they were lucky, especially in Fenerbahce game. How many open shots were missed?
In Fenerbahce, yeah, but you can't say lucky.
But I'm not saying they were lucky versus Efes. They were the better team, obviously. But with better shooting, Efes could have been in the game. But you have like Clyburn from 6 and all the other players missing shots. Some of them are wide open looks. So Maccabi is not known as a very good defensive team.
No. It's not normal that Efes score 64 only.
So and they kept both teams, Fenerbahce and Efes, under 75 points. But if you analyze those games, it's not about the numbers. It's about how many of those shots were really contested shots. And not too many, I would say. Especially in that Fenerbahce game, where Guduric was struggling, Wilbekin was struggling, everybody else. Dechampierre missed a lot of spot-up shots.
Dechampierre got back to earth, after shooting.
All of them did. All of them did after 23 pointers versus Bologna. But the thing is, for Maccabi, these are crucial wins, and you might have this fake impression that they all of a sudden became good defensively. I don't think they did. I think their opponents were just missing shots. But at the same time, Lorenzo Brown playing together with Wade Baldwin was a huge question mark for me before the season. Right now, I would say they have good balance.
Good chemistry.
Everything's working out. They're not a very deep team, but they always find these players that can help. Like John Di Bartolomeo was a true warrior in the Fenerbahce game. He's the captain of the team. You have a player like Poitras injured, and Sorkin steps up in certain games. Bonzi Carlson in the second part of the season is
playing great,
looking like one of the top 3 small forwards in the league. So Maccabi deserves credit. They're in the playoff race. They could be in the top 8, and with the talent that they have, I think they would be an uncomfortable opponent, knowing that they're a very good home team also. But it's just the thing. 11 from 62, man. That's the 3-point shooting they faced during double game week.
But we should probably give more props, as you said, to Wade Baldwin and that backcourt combination, because they really seem good together. When Brown was out, Lorenzo had, he had some great games, but at the same time, he was doing so much that he was having the highest peaks and the lowest of lows at the same game. You know, he could have 15-point quarter and then have a -6 efficiency performance in the next one. It was just up and down. And now when you have Brown next to him, who is playing as the primary ball handler, you know, Wade Baldwin looks great. And that's not something we were probably expecting. But Maccabi are looking like a dangerous team, especially at home.
And especially looking forward to the next year, if they will continue to build on that. And what I like that they are extending the contracts with the core players like Lorenzo Brown. There's a huge hope that Baldwin will stay, and with making some of the roster adjustments that they can make, even with the, let's say, limited budget. I mean, they can be a really dangerous team for the next year. And yeah, now they're inconsistent. I see your point about, you know, having their opponents shooting by horrible percentages, but that was, you know, kind of thing of their season already. They haven't won. They just won 3 consecutive games just once this season. They're playing away horribly, and being inconsistent is just part of their identity right now. But they can continue to improve on that. And the whole point, I mean, just as they say, no matter how they play, no matter what happened, the most important is that they got those wins. And those 2 wins this week, they were crucial. This double round week could, you know, build a path to the playoffs. I mean, winning against the head-to-head rivals, and also taking away one victory from the top 5 EuroLeague team. That's huge for the playoff hopes, because I think that before this double round week, I have different feelings about their chances, but now they're in a great situation, also giving their remaining schedule.
Yeah, 3 of their next 4 games are played at home. They're the best home team in the league. As I said, they're facing Baskonia now. And even their away games, Asvel and Zalgiris.
I think they're getting the 6th seed, to be honest with you.
It looks possible. It definitely is possible right now after this double game week. And I like them. I like teams like Maccabi, Baskonia, Monaco. These are my favorite teams to watch. So I do want to see them in the playoffs, actually. Last season, Maccabi was in the playoffs, but I would say randomly. And they were not a playoff team. If you remember the Madrid series. In this case, yeah, they could cause some problems.
Could potentially cause some game 5s in the quarterfinals.
For sure, that would be great. And I do agree that the main thing is chemistry, basically. That's the question we had before the season, chemistry and coaching.
We did not have question about the level of the talent of Lorenzo Brown and Wade Baldwin. Like, these 2 guys are incredibly talented. They can easily be a leader of each of separate EuroLeague team, like we saw Baldwin do with Bayern, and you know, Lorenzo Brown doing it for the previous teams, and now doing it for Maccabi. So it's actually nice that they're working so well together.
Yeah. And also from Fenerbahce's side, I love the way they responded. They had a bad shooting night. Nobody was overthinking it. They knew that the reason we lost in Tel Aviv was bad shooting. That's it. There's nothing else you can say. Nothing else to analyze. We missed a lot of open looks. And then they went to the other game with Barcelona. They had a terrible first quarter. But all of a sudden, in the second quarter, players were already fighting as it was a EuroLeague final. And that's what I loved about them. And, you know, now they have the complete roster with Tyler Dorsey making his debut, with Nemanja Bjelica getting more minutes. They're becoming also a team to watch.
The only problem is that Deshaun Pierre got injured. He's out for 3 more weeks. So that's sad, because he was on a great run, and he was always there for defense, but now he suddenly started making those shots. So his loss is significant.
And also, I just wanted to raise a question. I don't know if you have an opinion on this. Scotty Wilbekin faced Maccabi. He had, I would say, great reception at Tel Aviv. People applauded him. He was celebrated by the club. They gave him this poster, will be king, right? And then he drops 1 from 8. Do you think these celebrations before the game affect the player's performance?
I think it does.
I think it does. I remember I was listening to one of the podcasts where I'm not sure if the active player spoke about it or he just shared the example, but during one of those returning nights and big celebrations before the game, one player asked his coach, I think it could have been Coach Etra Messina, he asked his coach to start the game off the bench, although he was a regular starter, just to, calm down his emotions, just to prepare better for the start of the game, because it really affects, and it could have been a part of that.
Look, I've never been this type of player at this level, but the game against your ex-team, and especially if you have been for a long time there, it's just something special. When the schedule is out, you are one of the first things that you do is that you're skimming through the schedule, and one of the first things you see is definitely that game against your ex-team, because you played there. There are some relationships, whether that's good, whether that's bad. You want to go there. You want to play for the fans, maybe to prove a point. And those celebrations, like 5 minutes before the game, also could get into your mind, could throw out of your rhythm, because we know some players could be really superstitious with their routines pre-game. So I even think some teams could do this on purpose. Like we see Zalgiris giving out D-Bost. Who played six games. I mean, come on now.
Although I don't believe that it can affect D-Bost. I mean, he has no big feelings about Zalgiris returning to this city after 6 years.
I'm not saying it works for everyone, but I just could not mention that Zalgiris actually gave him this thank you D-Bost for 6 games in the EuroLeague, where he played 60 total minutes, I think. So it was just, but yeah, I think it definitely affects players. Not all of them, but the majority, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. Let's do a top 8 tracker. We have, most of the teams have 6 games to play, excluding some postponed
Efes
games
have
that will
more,
be
right?
7, and I think Fenerbahce, they also have 7, and their opponents that they had those games postponed.
Real Madrid and Armani.
Zvezda? No, Zvezda no. Yeah,
no, 4 teams. Armani,
Olympia for sure.
Armani, Real Madrid, Efes, and Fenerbahce.
Yeah, we're basically 1 month away from concluding the regular season, and now we have a little bit more clearer potential playoff picture after this double run week. And let's try to rank those teams from the most likely to the least likely to qualify to the top 8. And probably we all agree that we can agree that we have 5 teams qualifying to the playoffs, like Olympiacos, Madrid, Barca, Monaco, Fenerbahce, until some horrible things starts to happen. We can probably rule out, not probably, but we can rule out Alba, Asvel, Panathinaikos, and Bayern Munich, I would say. And I just leave Red Star in this conversation because we also have we will also include Emporio Armani Milan. So just to be clear, we'll try to rank Baskonia, Partizan, Maccabi, Zalgiris, Efes, Valencia, Virtus, Emporio Armani Milan, and Zvezda in this conversation. So, in your eyes, which team is the most likely to make the playoffs in this situation?
As I said 10 minutes ago, I think Maccabi gets the 6th seed because of the favorable home schedule, and they're playing in a good way, and probably I see a 6th and 7th spot by Baskonia and Maccabi, because we talked about Maccabi already. Baskonia have right now the matchup with Maccabi, but in Tel Aviv. But after that, they have Zvezda away, and then 3 home games: Alba, Fener, and Asvel. I think all 3 are doable, and they're probably getting one of the 3 away games that are left for them, either Zvezda, either Olympiacos, or Maccabi. So I see them at the 7th spot, to be honest, actually.
Yeah, basically I'm taking Maccabi right now also because I expect them to win this week, and if they do, that's already a big advantage.
Huge.
And then we've talked about their remaining schedule. So I do put them first in the list of those teams that you mentioned.
Do you agree that Baskonia are the favorites for the 7th spot? Or do you see...
Honestly, I agree. I also put them at the 6th and 7th seed.
I do agree. It's kind of hard to disagree on this, although you never know what's going to happen.
With Baskonia.
But I do agree with that, and I also put close to them as the third team and still making the playoffs. Efes.
Okay.
They have a crucial game now with Partizan. Partizan is in the playoff race seriously. They are
Partizan has 4 teams right now that played in the Final Four. And I don't care that 3 of those games are in Stark Arena with 35,000 fans probably inside of for those games.
Yeah,
But
the
it's
schedule is very tough. And
4 Final Four teams, and then you have Monaco away.
Yeah.
And
The
the
fifth team of
last
last
game,
season.
Panathinaikos at home, which could be an easy win, but you don't know if you'll have any chances to make
Still.
the playoffs on the 14th of April. So I do put Efes ahead of them, but that's again with a special clause that they win their head-to-head game this week.
Huge.
They must do it. And also Efes still has to play Real Madrid, so it becomes a double game week for them. So I do rank them Maccabi, Baskonia, Efes right now, and Partizan probably
Ninth.
Out. Wait a minute, you are underestimating Zalgiris. They beat. They went 2-0 in the double week.
I know they had a very good game versus Alba Berlin. That was probably the highlight of the EuroLeague season.
Top play of the year, do you think?
For sure, man.
What did you like the most? The 100 points scored
love the
in
quality.
both teams?
I love the quality, the free throws, the
Show some
three-point
respect to the
shots.
The
ninth
free
seed
throws.
team.
Both. I'm talking about both teams. I'm not talking about Zalgiris. Just man. So of course I'm not putting Zalgiris last in this list. Like when I rank them,
Have them 10th.
Maccabi, Baskonia, Efes, Partizan,
Partizan.
and then probably Zalgiris.
Yeah.
Because they have an advantage over Virtus, over Armani, over Zvezda. They still have to play Valencia at home. And I don't think that
Maccabi at
Valencia
home.
is making it to the playoffs. So yeah, Zalgiris, I could see them finishing on 50%, for example, or even 18 wins, 16 losses. It's just that I don't see them making the playoffs. But even being in contention for Zalgiris is a
great.
huge success. So, but the double game week, I mean, come on, what did we expect? They faced Alba and Asvel, and
Who casually decided that David Lighty is just, doing the load management stuff in the EuroLeague right now.
Nikola has been doing it for a while. We should check it, but basically in double game weeks this season, he plays one game and the other game he rests.
He needs to be ready for
That's
the
some
French
Kawhi
finals.
Leonard treatment.
Although we should mention that Nikola surpassed Juan Carlos Navarro in all-time scoring list.
Yeah.
He's number
Huge.
2 now behind Spanoulis. And he did that on a poor game versus Zalgiris. He needed 8 points, I think. He got 7 early, and we needed to wait for his next shot quite a while, but he did score.
He just made that
finished
shot and he was benched again.
Yeah, he finished with 9 points. And that's a huge achievement. That just shows how long he's been here and performing at a very high level.
But guys, do you agree that the 8th spot is decided this week? Partizan a little matchup. Like if Partizan wins, that's 2 wins away from the 9th spot. From Efes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
if Efes
Zalgiris.
loses the game, for sure. I mean, Efes has a double game week. If they win both games, then to me, they're definitely in the playoffs. But if they lose, and especially if they lose to Partizan, then probably Partizan takes their place.
It's just incredible to me. Like you have a Efes playing twice this week against Real Madrid and Partizan, and 2 great teams this season, and we have no idea the outcome of this game, because I wouldn't be surprised if Efes win both games by 20. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose both games playing the way they did, in this double week.
They must approach these games as finals right now.
But that they showed how many games there were? 27 games. They showed the right approach and probably their full potential in 3 games this season?
2 times
4
versus
games.
Barca.
2 times against Barca,
Olympiacos
that's for
once.
sure.
At least once versus Olympiacos. I'd say.
That's not enough. Even if we are forgetting 3 games,
And
more.
we should also say that, okay, right now they're not in a very good position, but it could have been worse They barely beat Asvel on the 24th of February, if you remember. They were so close to losing that game. It was a nail-biter. And even versus Panathinaikos...
I think against Alba as well, against
wasn't
Pau.
easy.
Yeah, but at the same point, they were so close of getting that victory in Monaco, or they lost against Valencia by 1 point. So, it's just part of the regular season with some unexpected losses and unexpected wins.
Okay, you're right, but at this point of the season, Asvel Villabon. I mean, how can you have struggles versus them right now?
Barca lost the game against Asvel, so, it just happens. It's
I'm just saying, at
EuroLeague.
this part of the season, when they're already in some sort of load management mode, when the Colo sometimes plays, sometimes doesn't play, it's obvious that they care about the French league right now more than EuroLeague. It's normal to lose in November or December when, teams are still trying to get as many wins as possible. But at this point of the season, Panathinaikos and Asvel should be easy wins for everybody, but somehow it's not. And I do agree that this week will definitely decide Efes' fate this season.
So we are talking about basically 4 teams fighting for the last 3 spots. Okay, there is Zalgiris, the 5th team. Do you agree that the other teams are quite out from the conversation? Like Virtus Bologna, Olimpia Milano, that have 6 wins in a row, the hottest team right now in the EuroLeague. Do you think they still have a chance? Because we agreed way before that 19 wins is a must. And that would mean that both Milano and Bologna have to win all of their games.
Yeah, and even the current situation shows that 18 wins is not enough. Having this percentage of just having 1 win over the 50%, it's just not enough. But there's this interesting thing about Milan. I'm really not surprised that they're making this late run and try to create this miracle. And I was really disappointed and pissed when, even starting from the head coach Ettore Messina, he kind of ruled his team out of the playoff picture pretty early, and he said that we should focus on just improving our game by game, and also building on momentum for the Italian league, basically. Although, when you think about it, when they have all their players healthy, when all of those players kind of come to the moment where they reach their best momentum of the season, or at least being on very high of their momentum, this team can beat any team playing home, away. It doesn't matter. There's a reason why I put them as the first seed in my preseason power rankings, because this is a very deep, very talented team. And as soon as all of those players got back, with the addition of Shabazz Napier, who helped a lot Ettore Messina and Milan's team, this is a very dangerous team. And I wouldn't be surprised of them making this miracle, even having this crazy schedule. I know that it's very unlikely, because they will have to win how many, like 15 games in a row. But when you take one game by game, with all the players included, they're capable of beating every opponent. And it doesn't matter who are playing, really.
I think it all started too late.
15 games in the EuroLeague in a row sounds crazy.
It just all started too late. It's not going to happen. They won't make it to the playoffs. If they signed Shabazz earlier, if they didn't lose some of those games that were there for the taking, like they lost twice to Alba Berlin, for example, they would be in a better position right now, and we would have a different conversation. But right now, to think they can win all of the games remaining, I think it's just too crazy. 7
games remaining, so they would need to win 13 in a row.
Yeah.
And to me, the thing that pisses me the most is that you play 11 rounds without a point guard. I mean, Naz Mitrulong was your first option as your ball handler.
Yeah.
I have no idea why you wait for, Siobhan Shields got injured in round 4. Kevin Pangos got injured in round 10. Shabazz Napier arrived at round 22 only. And in those 11 games, they went 3-8. And they had the best defense. That still, you see this every game. Like, they just held they just held two of the best teams offensively, Olympiacos and Partizan, in the last 2 weeks at 62. 62 points. Teams that are scoring 80 plus every game easily. That's crazy. And with Shabazz Napier, there, and the other players getting back, it just created this domino effect where everyone is playing in their roles. And, Billy Barron can play off the ball. Shabazz Napier can play together with Pangos, which works really well up to this point. Messina also made some adjustments, probably the ones that, he couldn't make before because he just simply didn't have any players. Like playing Melli and Voigtman together really unlocked their offense right now. And who would have thought that a five of Napier, Pangos, Voigtman, and Melli, four of these players could be great defensively. Like that just shows to me that, some teams are prepared and, the habits are there defensively, especially because if this four probably was on Efes, we wouldn't see the same good defense, So that's, everything to the coach. But I agree that it's too late and they can't really win 7 games in a row.
And when they had all these problems in the first part of the season, they didn't sign Shabazz Napier. They signed Timotelu Vavukabaro, a team that was struggling with basically creating shots playing without a playmaker, decided to go for a player like Vavukabaro. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not a bad player. That's not what they needed at the time. And they signed Shabazz, and it was just too late. You can see that he's playing very well. Finally, we have the answer. Is Shabazz Napier potentially good player for EuroLeague? Yes, we can see that right now. We were waiting for him last season. It just didn't happen. But as good as they are playoff material. If you put them in the playoffs, they could beat anybody in a best-of-5 series. They could make it to the Final Four and everything, but it's just too late, in my opinion.
And Shavon Shields got injured again.
Yeah, that's just a shame, man. I mean, such a great player and having so many injuries recently. This season, even last season, he had some problems. Like, I feel so sad about it.
Yeah, a few years ago in the 18-19 season, Zalgiris probably created the biggest miracle of the current format EuroLeague, winning 6 remaining games of the regular season and making it to the playoffs, although they were like 9-15, I think, approaching the last stretch of the season. I tried to check for another miracle that happened, but it was a really tough task. Although probably we can count on Panathinaikos when they made this Rick Pitino move. They won 6 of the last 7 games, although they were 9-13 approaching the final run of the regular season. So yeah, it's a really hard task to Milan for making another miracle, and it rarely happens in this EuroLeague.
I mean, Virtus and Valencia, they're also 2 teams that I don't really see in the playoffs. The schedule is really tough, and it's not like they're playing very well recently. And Zvezda also, I mean, they just wasted their lead versus Bayern Munich, versus Panathinaikos. They lost 3 games to teams that are not even competing for playoffs.
Yeah.
So that explains everything. And even the Campasso effect is not as special as maybe we thought it could be. So yeah, basically I think it's between Efes, Zalgiris, Maccabi, Baskonia, Partizan.
How many wins do you think Zalgiris get in the remaining schedule?
So
I'm going to go with 2.
What do they have?
They have Olympiacos, Fener, the next 2.
Monaco, Valencia, Maccabi,
Bayern.
I'm going to go with 2.
I'm
going to say
Valencia and Maccabi home?
I'm going to say they'll beat Valencia, and then the other win, where it comes from, I don't know. Maybe one of these home games. Maybe Monaco has a bad night, or Maccabi, or maybe the regular season finisher with Bayern Munich. That will be the last game of the season. But to make the
Two wins
playoffs.
are not enough.
To make the playoffs, they would probably need 4.
Could do it with 3, maybe.
Maybe,
with
but they need some luck
head-to-heads.
then because they don't have head-to-head advantages versus teams like Partizan, Baskonia, Efes.
Maccabi would be crucial game actually, because they lost by 1 point or by 2 points.
By 1.
By 1.
I
First game of the season.
we'll see where they are facing Maccabi because by the time we will know how much that game means to both teams. So because it's on the 6th of April. Right now, I mean, on Saturday, we had the Independence Day. And so basically, we went to a restaurant with family. And my father, out of nowhere, started saying to me that he has a feeling Zalgiris is going to beat Olympiacos. And I'm saying to him, no. Why would they? You can tell me that they will beat Monaco, Valencia, or Maccabi. Why Olympiacos? Of course, on that day, he didn't even know that they will lose to Rytis in Lithuanian league. But that was a crazy conversation. He said to me like, yeah, I know Olympiacos is the best team in the league right now, but I just have this feeling.
The national proud.
Who am I to talk about feelings?
We might be sitting here in a Q&A pod later this week, and you know your father is right, maybe.
Yeah, I mean Olympiacos, they dropped some games against Asvel, for instance, playing away, or Red Star playing at home. So it also depends on in what kind of approach they will have for this game, but the problem is that Olympiacos is different, but there's for sure that factor that for the biggest stars of the EuroLeague, usually when they come to play teams like Zalgiris, like Villeurbanne or Alba, they don't really treat it the same as some other games. And if home team, in this case Zalgiris, plays their best game of the season, some miracles can happen.
But if they're seriously running for the first seed, they need this win because Madrid is close to them. I'm just thinking that right now at this stage of the season, it's more about the quality. Because how Zalgiris got their wins and got to this place where they are right now by hustling, fighting, playing very hard defense. But you would always see that they're lacking quality. And they were so dependent on Keenan Evans. Then they replaced him with Isaiah Taylor after that injury. Then Brasdeikis had a very good month. But again, now we're seeing that Taylor has some problems.
With the same hamstring.
So, I don't know. They just don't have enough quality in my eyes. They're overperforming, I think. And even the metrics should show that they're overperforming. It's never been seen that a team with such a bad assist-to-turnover ratio is a winning team in the game of basketball. They beat Asvel. That was a dead game. You know what assist-to-turnover ratio they had in the end of the game?
They had like
9 assists, 13 turnovers. So it's basically Zalgiris is doing something that they're playing against the modern basketball trends. Somehow they're winning, but I don't really see them in the playoffs.
We see them in the 9th spot actually, but you know, before the game, I said that actually Alba, Zalgiris is meeting Alba and then as well 2 of the worst teams, and I said but Zalgiris is actually between the worst teams right now, maybe the 3rd worst team because their net rating in the last 6 games is the last in the EuroLeague, even worse than Alba, even worse than Asvel. They have, I think, the 2nd worst offense and the 1st worst defense. They're not good on both sides of the court. And, yesterday, the domestic league game against Rytis was a great example of their current situation.
I think they're just overperforming. You have, close to them in the 10th seed right now, Efes, a team that's clearly underperforming. And then you have Zalgiris that's clearly overperforming. And then you have Maccabi, Partizan, Baskonia that are basically performing the way they should. And fighting for the playoffs.
So how your full list from the 6th to 14th seed looks like?
Right. We got stuck in this conversation.
Let's try.
Zalgiris, but it's Maccabi, Baskonia, Efes, Partizan, Zalgiris, and then the others, it's a pretty close. I'd say Armani, Virtus, Zvezda, and Valencia.
Okay, I have Maccabi, Baskonia. I'll go with Partizan in the playoffs as the 8th seed. I have Efes, Zalgiris, Olympia, Virtus, Valencia, and Zvezda.
Yeah, my list looks pretty similar.
Who do you have as the 8th spot?
I have Maccabi over Baskonia just because they're playing Baskonia home, and for the 8th spot, I just have Partizan because I know that they're having this crazy schedule right now, facing these top seeded teams, but at the same time, I just trust their quality and consistency they showed in the second half more than unpredictability of Efes team. I mean, because other than that there is this belief that this team can be great again. I mean, nothing else shows that they can actually be great for the last stretch of the season, especially given their health status of some of the main players. But of course, I'm not ruling anybody out, because what this EuroLeague teach me throughout those last couple of years, that you cannot rule anybody out no matter what is happening. But just making some conclusions, I just give an upper hand for Partizan, but I have Efes as a 9th seed just because I feel that they can always surprise us all and suddenly start playing serious basketball. After that, I have Zalgiris, although their playoff chances look unlikely, given the talent, but it kind of was a conversation for the whole season. And playing a few games at home, it can really boost them for the final stretch. I have Milan as my 11th seed team because I believe they can be great for a longer stretch. If they can be amazing for 13 wins in a row, it's not very likely, but they have talent, and I hope that Shovan Shield's injury is not that serious. And I actually then have Valencia, Virtus, and Red Star. So it's pretty similar list that we had. We actually have some data from Darius Garuolis. He updates us with the how difficult the schedule is for the remaining rounds for all those teams. And actually among those teams we discussed, Maccabi has the easiest schedule given the fact that they will play 4 of their 6 games at home, and also this percentage is based on the strength of the opponents, of how many wins do they have, and also there's some special ratio on if they're playing home or away. So Maccabi is in the best position among those discussed teams. Then Efes follows, Red Star, Fener, and actually the 3 teams with the most difficult schedule is starting from the top: Virtus, Valencia, and Milan. And of course there's Partizan 4th. We will have this data published today, I think. And yeah, going to the last part of the podcast, we will try to include the
Mike James segment, you mean?
A new segment, which I could try to call Catch and Shoot, our quick reactions on the best social media activities. But when I searched through the social media feed that was created by basketball players, by EuroLeague teams or whatsoever, I just understood that there's nothing else to discuss about except from Mike James' Twitter feed from Sunday, I think. And I will just share some the greatest conversations that he had, and I'll just wait for your reaction. And actually, I think that all the conversations started from a simple tweet where Mike James shared his UEFA Champions League group draw that he got playing with some
St. Mirren.
This is a Scottish team, right?
Yep.
Oh, I saw that picture. What happened in the comment section? Because the next tweet I saw was, "Hey guys, yo Partizan fans, chill. We have a game against you only in April. Go find another team."
So exactly, Partizan fans happened. So the first reaction: instead of playing FIFA, you should worry about Madara Nexum locking up your ass in Monaco. Yeah, and Mike just responded that, yeah, I'll worry about that game whenever it come around. Lol. Better start preparing. We don't want you to cry about it again. The fan responded, and he just said that I'll worry more about playoffs, as should you. Another comment from the Serbian Twitter profile: dude, you lost like twice in Belgrade in about 2 weeks. Your opinion means nothing here. Then Another Serbian tweets, "You'll become a good player the moment you start respecting your coach, and God's blessing to play for such a legend. As long as you keep running your big mouth, you'll just be a little crybaby and mid-player. KP and X, I'm gonna humble you." Mike James just responded that, "I think your opinion sucks and I disagree, but Sasha, my dog." Hey bro, what are your chances against Matthias Lesort after switching 1-on-1? Are very bad. So that was a question, but there was a statement included. And Mike, actually, that was an epic comeback. He said that 1-on-1 doesn't exist in my world. Extra help or double always coming.
That's a great unboxing one coming your way, man.
Of course, Serbian fans, they didn't prevail. There was the response, "You are not KD or Kyrie. Relax, brother. At least go to the Final Four one time." And Mike just responded that already did that. He was on the Final Four with the Baskonia team. And just go watch some basketball and you will see. Again, and you could carry water and towels around for punter. For who? Lol. Mike, you should better focus on your defense. You haven't watched a lot of games, I can tell. And yeah, just after this whole thread responding to Serbian fans, he just tweeted that, "I didn't get a tweet from y'all in my 11 years playing professional basketball. Now all of a sudden, I'm just y'all only tag." Lots of laugh.
What is wrong with these people? I want to say, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Man.
Dude is playing FIFA.
I mean, he takes time.
What?
But he takes time to
give
respond.
credits for all those responses.
Yeah, I mean,
How much fun he had, do you think?
a lot.
A lot.
And I love that he's responding. I would do the same thing also, but at the same
having
time,
a great time.
These people being so obsessed with their partisans and others, like, what's the point of all of this? Just try to enjoy basketball once in a while. And the guy is just playing FIFA on his free time because, as we know, he's injured. He didn't play in Baskonia. He didn't play in the French league on weekend. So I see him recently tweeting about the Premier League title race, like Arsenal and Man City.
Something.
Yeah, so cool. That's cool. I love it. And
In Rytis' eyes, that's incredible.
and it looks like these guys, every single day when they wake up, all they have on their minds is Partizan. Oh, Exum is gonna defeat you. Like you're making this EuroLeague thing sort of a Diablo computer game where you need to face all these bosses and you might die. The warrior has to go through all the enemies. It's just basketball. Chill. Like watch, enjoy. We love the game, but you look in these conversations. You look stupid. Mike doesn't. Mike looks smart with his comebacks. You guys look stupid.
You know, this looks like a Diablo 3 game with Matthias Lesor supposed to be the last boss.
In the fifth act, you're facing Matthias, but you're never 1-on-1 because there's Yalmadar.
The double team coming here.
Yes.
I don't have that specific tweet, but I just saw that all those messages, all this hate, it's just massaging his boredom during his free time. Just that's how Mike James.
I love it.
They're trying to live rent-free in his head. You know, they think maybe they're getting into his head, but I don't really think that's happening. But to me, the greatest trash talk of the week, if we're talking about social media, like we cannot mention Draymond Green's response to Dillon Brooks. I mean, that was one of the.
And I was so surprised that it actually happened before their matchup.
It's just perfect drama. And, you know, the best tweet I saw, the best reaction I saw is, you know, the picture is the NBA has gone 0 minutes without being too dramatic about anything, you know, not playing on the court, actually. But that was one of the all-time responses from Draymond to Dillon Brooks, and the fact that they played against each other the next day, that's just NBA, you know, that's content, baby.
Well, Draymond is a very vocal guy. He has his own podcast, and you can be sure if you say something about Draymond, he's going to respond. He's going to respond. But honestly, I think everything is an overreaction. But I am on Draymond's side rather than on Dillon Brooks because I hate Dillon Brooks not as a man, but as a player, I hate his game, honestly. I don't think that's winning basketball, what he's doing. And when he's saying that Draymond is only good because he's on the Warriors, Draymond, up to this day, is still one of the best defenders in the league that can guard all 5 positions. And yeah, of course, he's lucky to be in a position with the 2 of the best shooters in the world and to win all these titles. But I don't think Dillon Brooks is in a position to question Draymond.
No. And I mean, Dillon Brooks, even without saying anything about his game, whether, I like it or not, whether you like it or not, saying that Draymond is lucky to be in that position just says that, okay, that's probably trash talk, but you just look stupid saying that. I mean, he is the heart of that team. He's the best defender of the team. He does so well. And, you could say Draymond is nothing without Steph and Clay, but those 2 without Draymond, I don't know how far they go, without this type of player and, playing at such a level for the whole career. So, I mean, he said it perfectly well. If you would be insert the amount of all-stars that he have, if you would have been on Team USA, if you would be 4-time NBA champion, if you were going to be defensive player of the year, you would be talking a lot more than I do right now.
I love that quote. If you're looking for reasons why Memphis is not going to win anything, look no further than this idiot.
My gosh. He took the trash talk
do
to
you think that was scripted, or he just went in a full improvisation mode?
think Draymond just does his thing and everything is pretty spontaneous, probably.
Yeah,
that was just destroying, and
he is just Mr. Natural.
No, the better question would be if even your own teammates like playing with you. I'm like, okay, this is it.
That sounds like some inside stuff, no?
Yeah, it does, of course.
I wouldn't want to play with Dillon Brooks. He's like a black hole. It's not like he has good numbers, but he takes wild shots from bad positions. His decision making is, I would say, respectfully, rather questionable. And he has skills. He's still pretty young. He might develop his game and become better. But at the moment, I hate watching Dillon Brooks. Honestly,
he already made a huge jump, in his growth.
Yeah, for sure. And he's gonna have a good career, and he's gonna earn a lot of money from playing basketball and all that stuff. But it's just that some players you do see as winning players, and some players you see as Dillon Brooks.
Yeah, so
you just joined the Draymond Green.
Go and follow Draymond Green to get this crazy content and to make your social media life more entertaining. Also, go and follow Mike James. I actually didn't notice that he put this on his profile, that he's explorer of my purpose and rock paper scissors expert. Also, my suggestion to follow Wade Baldwin. He made a great tweet last week. There was some short video clip of Atlanta Hawks playing actual defense, and it was presented
with
as
the new coach.
It was presented as a big thing on Twitter, and Wade Baldwin just quoted the video and responded, "Take that clip and multiply it for 38 minutes out of 40. That's EuroLeague basketball." So that was pretty bold tweet.
That's a great one.
Our social media team also sparked a great discussion. There was this tweet and graphic with the biggest talents and the lowest, smallest recognition. There were a lot of interesting responses like Lajic, Darius Thompson, Mike Kotzer, Shields, Sigma, Carson Edwards or Goodrich, Deshaun Pierre, even Kalaitzakis, one of the Yorgos Kalaitzakis probably, Yamadar, Nicholas Wimberg, Thomas Vokap, Jakuba Utara, Shannon Evans, Raul Lopez, Wanzi Colson, legendary Raul Lopez. What would be your pick that you would tweet?
A lot of picks, good picks here.
Just one. Give me just one.
Just one? We already gave like the underrated player. I said like Matt Costello a couple of weeks ago, but I think the recognition part, I will just give it to Rodrigue Beaubois because, he's overshadowed by Shane Larkin, Vasilije Micic, and Will Clyburn, and just the talent he has and the recognition he gets is probably one of the biggest gaps in the EuroLeague there is.
That's a very good choice because, we're talking about an NBA champion who could have had a much better career in the NBA if it wasn't for the injury.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a player that was a high volume scorer for Baskonia. And all of a sudden in Efes, he's very important, very consistent, and he's been doing this for years. It's just that the team has at least 2 stars, and right now you can say 3.
And a star coach, I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
And those 3 people are taking all the attention. So
yeah, that's a very good choice, actually. I couldn't come up with a better example right now.
I had Darius Thompson, Costello, Bonzi Carlson, maybe Gabby Deck.
But sorry,
Gabby Deck in the same conversation because Real Madrid have so many good players.
But if we're talking about Darius Thompson not getting recognition, and you go to the EuroLeague website right now, there's literally a picture of Darius Thompson saying the past masters dropping dimes. So I believe that right now, this day, he's getting his recognition. And Gabi Deck is a good choice because Madrid is always stacked. And I mean, players like Musa, Hezonja, and the big guys like Yabusele and Tavares, they make more spectacular plays, more highlight material. But Gabi Deck is just an old school, consistent basketball player.
Silent killer.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a pretty good example as well.
And or you mentioned Tavares, Yabusele, and all the others, and there is Sergio Yui or Rudy Fernandez who are making those crazy shots.
Yeah.
Or the last second ones or the game winners, and they get all the attention.
And they also have big names because of their history. So when Yui does something or Rudy does something, it's gonna be on social media, people will talk about it. And when Gabidek does a good post up, it's not necessarily that
who wants to
highlighted.
see layups,
I actually had this inner discussion with myself. Of course, this is a different type of player than Costello or Darius Thompson. These are now obvious and easy picks for the current season. But I thought about the bigger picture and about all those GOAT conversations in Europe. As soon as you come up with this GOAT topic, usually you think about players like Vasilis Spanoulis, Juan Carlos Navarro, and etc. And when I saw Nando De Colo surpassing Juan Carlos Navarro, being the second top scorer in all-time EuroLeague history, also he's the top scorer of all European international competitions, I just thought, did actually De Colo get enough recognition for his talent, skill, and what if he played? Because I think that we all knew that, he's great, he's an amazing scorer, and etc. But I have to be honest, maybe it's a problem of my social bubble, but I never heard him being really discussed in all of those conversations, although his CV is just amazing. He's a 2-time EuroLeague champion, Eurocup champ. Once he became the EuroLeague MVP, regular season MVP, Final Four MVP, 3-time All-EuroLeague team, Eurobasket champion. He won silver in Olympics and Eurobasket, bronze in World Cup and Eurobasket. In 7 of 10 EuroLeague seasons, he was the top 10 scorer in the league. He was the top 3 scorer of the league for 4 straight seasons, and his career average is 15.4 points per game on 54% 2-point shooting, 42% 3-point shooting, and 93% free throw shooting. I think that, I don't know, at
50,
least I feel
40, 90 for a career.
That's the thing. It's not just one season thing. It was throughout his whole career.
But you cannot expect a player to be mentioned as much when he's playing for CSKA Moscow as the players who win titles for Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, and other legendary clubs. Like, we're talking about a team
Fan bases?
Yeah, we're
history?
talking about the team that has been always overpowered with money, always the richest team, always the best roster. Nando De Colo playing next to Milos Teodosic, Nenad Krstic, Sonny Weems, or whatever superstar lineups they had at the time. And then we're creating legends about Spanoulis winning for Olympiacos with a roster where their fourth best player probably was somebody that people didn't even know. So for sure, as a basketball player, the Colo is in the same conversation, but it's just that the fans are not talking about him so much. It's pretty obvious why. Honestly,
that's your point. Just to me shows that EuroLeague is a club league. Again, just one more proof, of this whole conversation that you just had.
If he won with Fener when he was there,
the problem that he was
for
not,
example,
he wasn't fair, not at his peak.
If he won with Fener,
they were not
an MVP title with Fener, a EuroLeague title with Fener, it would be a different conversation. But right now, all these accolades he achieved with CSKA Moscow. That basically makes them a bit undervalued in this European basketball context.
Although, Spanoulis created this Cinderella story with Olympiacos, but probably you cannot say the same with Diamantidis, who's also, appears in all those GOAT conversations. Because you cannot say that Panathinaikos, they were lacking of talent. This was a super team of 2000s, probably in the beginning of the last decade.
But again, that's Panathinaikos.
But that's Greek. That's what I also think, that fan bases between those teams also means a lot of putting some narratives for those GOAT conversations. And also, don't forget that he's French player. There's no big basketball passion or culture there in France. And probably what also affected him, that on the French national team, he always played with some really talented NBA players. And Navarro also, he had Pau Gasol on his team, but Spanoulis, they were basically the most talented players on their teams. So it probably also kind of affected his status in all those conversations.
It's funny how two best basketball nations, France and Spain, as you said, don't have a strong basketball culture. But they're the best.
Yeah. In Spain, maybe it's different. They have this culture, but it's more like a local culture. It's not like they have those crazy passionate fans behind like Greeks or Serbians. There is basketball culture. I mean, they have great attendance for their home games. They're not traveling. They're not known from some crazy fan bases. But
it's just that France produces best talent.
Second,
obviously.
Second after USA probably. So that's crazy. And just for the very, very, very end, I have the last question about Vasilije Micic. He just hired a new NBA agent, which probably indicates that he has hopes of making it to the NBA this summer. And just to clarify for one more time, he chose Wasserman's Jason Rahn as his new representative for the NBA, but Miško Raznatović, who he works with since 2010 from these mega times when Jokic was also there, he still remains his agent in Europe. But this move, of course, you can think that might have his impact for increasing his chances of moving to the NBA. And what is also interesting, that Jason Rahn, I'm mispronouncing his surname. What's interesting that he worked for Sam Presti in the OKC around 10 years ago. He was hired by Sam Presti. He has some great players on Thunder roster, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, some other guys. So maybe it can have an impact, given the fact that I remember I was interviewing Miško Raznatović last year, and he said something that NBA should change some rules, because now basically Micic was like in a prison of Thunder, because they have his draft rights. They're not signing him, but they're not trading him. So maybe this new agent will help, to find some agreements with Thunder, whether to play for them or for him to be traded. But other than that, what do you think? Which team would be the best NBA fit for Vasilije Micic?
I don't think he's playing for the Thunder, to be honest. I think there's already happened too much. I think the best fit for him would be Chicago Bulls. And where were their interests from Chicago? I think this summer there were some talks,
mentioned in those rumors.
So imagine what he could have done this season with Lonzo Ball injured for for all year, and Ayo Dosunmu was their starting point guard for the season, and still is. And I think if Chicago goes after him, that would be interesting move. And would make sense both for Micic because he could have playing time, and intelligent move for the Bulls because they don't know the situation with Lonzo Ball and his knee. So if they're keeping him, with Micic, you could have a nice option, safety option, and you could be getting a nice player in return, and you could still have Ayo Dosunmu, as a role player there. Micic would be going into a situation where Lonzo Ball, nobody knows his health situation, and he could have playing time, so it would be a win-win for everyone. I think it could be a nice option, Chicago.
If his priority is to have a big role on the team, then that's one of the better destinations, obviously. We don't know about Chicago. Maybe they're going to go in full rebuilding mode and trading their best players.
Their best pieces.
They have big contracts with DeRozan, Levine, Vucevic, right? Vucevic. But if we're talking about Micic being on a contender, then there's no chance for him to be a big role player. That's the thing. So Chicago is a possibility. Oklahoma, I don't know, they're developing talent. It's not like Micic is 21 or 22 years old. So it's kind of a difficult question because when we're talking about teams competing for the NBA title, they all have good point guards. They all have quality, and at best you can be a backup. I'm not sure if that's what Vasa wants and where he sees himself. So Chicago Bulls, that's a pretty good possibility.
Yeah.
Which team out of contender would he? I was trying to think of a contender as well.
He doesn't necessarily need a starting point guard position, at least to be involved in the active rotation of the backcourt. Could be enough for his rookie season, unless he really wants to play for all those bottom teams.
When your rookie season is when you're 29 years old or 28 years old, it looks different. So it's not like you're in a position to wait until a team develops their project. Like when Oklahoma right now, they have young players. They might have a high draft pick, and you're in a good position to grow with that team. And if you're talking about Vasa on a contender, you're going to play 12 minutes as a backup to some proven point guard. And will Vasa Micic be able to show his true talents in 12 minutes on the court? I mean, in regular season, you will have some games where somebody's out, somebody's not playing because of load management or some injury, and you will have more minutes to perform, but it's about the playoffs. So if you put Vasa Micic in any of these playoff teams, like, let's go through them. Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Cleveland in West, Denver, Phoenix, Memphis, Sacramento. All of them have special players in point guard position. Or like Boston Celtics, they have ball dominant players like Tatum and Brown. So I don't think that there's a possibility for Vasa to recreate what he does in Efes in the NBA. But Chicago Bulls, knowing that they had high hopes for Lonzo Ball and he might be out for a year or a year and a half, is a good chance for Vasa to prove something.
Yeah, let's just hope that his knee situation will be better and will allow him to test those waters this summer. Pretty much it for this podcast. It was a pleasant conversation as always with you, gentlemen. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for everybody who are listening to us. And just one reminder, this week we have Q&A session at the end of the week, so we are already waiting for your questions. We will do some separate posts, but for sure give us your questions and join our BN Plus community on basketnews.com/plus. Press like, subscribe, help us to grow, to provide you even more and better content. See you soon.